Hey, Joyful Wife. Thanks for joining me again. Excited to have you here. So, picture this. You're about 5 minutes into what's supposed to be a relaxing drive to your weekend getaway, and you simply look over to your loving husband and say, "Did you pack the fan?" And suddenly you're in a heated argument about packing, time management, and who's to blame for what. Does that sound familiar to you? Have you ever had an argument that just kind of felt like it happened out of nowhere? What happens in those little tiny moments when tension starts to rise can either sabotage your entire weekend or become an opportunity to grow even closer. And guess what? The choice is up to you. Hi, I'm Tamera, and today I'm going to share a real life story that happened to me and my husband about our weekend getaway and how one simple response saved the weekend. Not just the weekend, but potentially hours or days of marital tension. So what happened? A couple months ago, we planned a weekend getaway, and I happened to wait till the last minute to pack because I'm doing a lot of different things. I don't want to overpack. I have to really sit down and think, what is it that I really need? And realize that I can get away with minimal. So I do wait till the last minute to pack. Not always, but a lot of the time. And my husband is usually really patient with me. He will pack all his stuff and then he'll leave room for my stuff. And then he likes to pack the fan on top so we know that we got it because we cannot sleep without a fan. And in the past, we have left the fan and thought, oh, well, we'll just buy another one. Well, once you get so many fans, you realize it's probably irresponsible to continue doing that. So we like to bring our little tiny fan with us. It helps us to sleep through the night. So I finally got packed. He put the suitcase in the car and we pull out and we're about 7 minutes down the road into our trip. And I just look over and I said, hey, did you pack the fan? Immediately. And I mean immediately, my husband went into full defensive mode. Well, I was waiting for you to finish packing. You waited till the last minute to pack. I kept telling you to pack. And now you're blaming me for something? Once he said that, I really felt that familiar surge of irritation and frustration and defensiveness. It just was rising in my chest and going into my face. And my first instinct was to fire back at him with, I wasn't blaming, I was just asking. But instead of doing that, I took a minute to just calm myself down and make a different choice in my response. I took a breath and just said, you're absolutely right. I did wait too long to pack. I apologize for that. Should we turn around and go grab the fan? And of course, there was just nowhere to turn around on this two-way street. So my husband would stay a little bit more irritated. And I was like, it's really not that big of a deal. So I found a place to exit, to turn around, and we went back and got the fan. So let me tell you what could have happened if I hadn't caught myself in that little tiny micro moment from reacting to responding. If I had responded defensively, I could have said, I wasn't blaming you. I was just asking a question. You hear that tone, the irritation, the frustration, and he probably would have escalated with, you always do this. You create chaos and then act like it's everyone else's fault. You see where we're going with this? Those key words just don't belong in a conversation. Then I probably would have gotten louder and been like, I create chaos. You're the one turning a simple question into World War III. And by the time we would have reached our destination, we would have been sitting in cold silence, both feeling irritated and resentful, and the weekend that was meant to connect us would have been ruined. Maybe we would have still been casually nice to each other, but we would have had the lens of frustration and irritation, and that would have shown up through every conversation, every meal we had, every connection that we could have had that weekend. And here's the worst part. It's when it's unresolved conflict, it doesn't stay at the hotel or at the Airbnb or in the car with you. It follows you home, and then it waits for little tiny conversations that can be potential landmines. But luckily, that's not what happened. And here's what actually happened. When I acknowledged his point and took responsibility for my part, something beautiful occurred. He was able to relax. He was able to calm his own emotions down. He was able to let go of his defensiveness. And then we had a conversation. Instead of spending 2 hours in cold silence, we turned around, we grabbed the fan, we solved the actual problem which this is where most people go wrong, is they don't solve the problem. They're too busy attacking each other. This is also an opportunity for maybe to talk about why you get so stressed out when things like this happen, or how you can do things differently, or maybe that you guys have different packing styles and you can work with each other. It creates more opportunity for you to connect in a deeper level. And the weekend went great, not because it was perfect, but because we set the tone for grace and understanding. So in that little moment where I chose to validate his feelings and take responsibility for my own actions, I was able to break this cycle that sabotages so many marriages. Most of us think admitting fault means that we're weak or that we're in an unfair blame. But what I've discovered is that taking ownership for your part, even when intentions were innocent, creates emotional safety for your husband to soften up to. So here's a little formula that I can share with you. Pause before you defend. When you feel that defensive surge, take a breath before responding, and in that breath, ask yourself, do I want to be right, or do I want to be connected? Step 2 is find something true that you can acknowledge in that moment. So even if you feel misunderstood, look for something true in what your husband is saying. In my case, it was true that I waited till the last minute to pack, and that created some pressure. And when you're acknowledging that truth, it doesn't mean you're accepting that blame for everything. It just means that you're choosing connection over being right. And then step 3 is redirect to solutions. Like I said, don't get caught in attacking each other. That blame shame cycle, it'll just keep going and keep going. Once you validate his feelings, gently guide the conversation towards fixing the situation. Should we turn around, or can we handle this better? How can we handle this better next time? This shows you're on the same team and not opposing sides with each other. So here's what's really happening when we choose de-escalation over defensiveness. We're teaching our husband that they are emotionally safe with us. We're showing them that they can express frustration without it turning into some huge battle. And when our husbands feel emotionally safe, they start sharing more. They soften a little quicker, and they learn that approaching us with little problems instead of avoiding difficult conversations is a good place to be with us. The cost of always being defensive on either side is that you stop sharing issues that you want to solve because you're just so tired of every conversation becoming a huge conflict. But the reward of vulnerability is a marriage where both parties feel heard, they feel understood, and they feel genuinely connected. So here's a little challenge for you. So the next time you start feeling that defensive reaction rising, and you will feel it, try the 3-step approach instead. Pause and find something to acknowledge that is true, and then redirect to solutions. Your marriage doesn't need perfect moments. It just needs moments where you choose connection over being right. And who knows, your next potential argument might just be a breakthrough that you've been waiting for.